going to put together the TDI EGT probe and plate. Take note that the plate is being tapped from one side only because it's a tapered thread, so it will screw in from one side fairly easily, but from the other side you'll fail to get it to pick up properly. It will be tighter immediately. So there is one side that it actually goes in better. You'll screw it in there. We can tighten it firmly in the vehicle, but it's easier just to do it on the bench. Fit the probe. Take note of the probe, there's a little ball inside the compression fitting. That squeezes on the probe and it clamps the probe into position. The TDI, we connect the probe onto the plate and we tighten everything up tight right up front, because we've got to bend it later so that it can fit down the manifold, because the EGR port is skew. Don't tighten this too tight, you'll squash the probe. That's firm, everything's held tight, it cannot turn, it's quite safe. Now we can fit it on the engine. Take the EGR plate off. Some vehicles will just, such as Defenders, will have a probe plate only, or just a blanking plate. Some Discoveries will have a whole EGR assembly coming out here, connecting in here. Take that all off and throw it away, you don't need that. As you'll notice, the hole is not straight, it goes in at that angle. So if you try and fit your probe, it's not going to go in. The probe needs to be bent a little bit upwards, just so that it's happy to go in there. Note that it should be bent towards the small side. The hole is not in the center of the plate. The probe must be bent towards the short side. I'm going to bend it a little bit more. That should do it. The active part of the probe is actually on the tip. The rest of the probe is hollow. So bending the probe does not affect its operation in any way. We're using a grey silicon sealant. Just need a little bit, just so that you don't get exhaust gases escaping out of that particular joint. Don't need a very thick film, but it is a little bit uneven on that surface. It's got a bit of an old gasket that tends to stay stuck. We put a little bit of Loctite on the bolts. So it's not really to keep them locked, it's actually to make it easier for them to come out, because they tend to rust into position. Don't untwirl the wire by pulling it like this. You're going to land up with knots and things. Rather unwind it. This vehicle was originally fitted with a water level sensor, so we're not going to fit any other. This one's fine. If you have a vehicle that does not have one fitted, you'd use a 22mm hole saw. Drill a hole in that same position, which is just below the seam and outside of the center of the bottle. There's a plastic flashing inside the bottle, so you want to drill it a little bit on this side and just below the seam. That will be the ideal position. 22mm hole. Cut the inside of the hole clear with a blade, just to get any of the sharp edges away. You fit the sensor from the outside inwards with a float hanging downwards. You tighten it up, holding the plastic section with a 11 spanner, and you tighten the big nut gently until it becomes tight, and then about a quarter turn further. It is all made of plastic, you don't want to tighten it tight, it will seal. Best thing is to tighten it and then drive the vehicle. If you find it's leaking slightly, you can tighten it just a little bit more. One of the leads you would cut and fit onto earth. This one just bolts up behind onto the same bolt. You would earth the one lead, the other lead will go back to the EMS. Don't forget to put the water back. When we're filling the water, you can fill the tank full. The system will automatically get rid of any extra water that is there. Once you fill the main bottle, you must just bleed it through, make sure that the water is in the thermostat housing. Just simply take the plug off till the water comes out. Put the plug back in again. Then you're sure that the water has gone through the whole system, everything's full.